Welcome into Scoops with Danny Mac on Fox 2. I'm Dan McLaughlin. Tonight we're recapping the season that was for the St. Louis Cardinals. A regular season that was filled with great moments and milestones and finished with a quick exit against the Philadelphia Phillies in postseason play. My guest will be Ben Frederickson of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. We'll dive into what this season has meant to Cardinal fans with the final years of both Yadier Molina and Albert Pujols. A look ahead to what 2023 may bring and which top prospects could be a part of the plans for next season. Also, later in the show, I recently held my charity golf event to benefit the Special Education Foundation. 20 years we have come together to help kids and families in need, and a closer look at that is coming up. Well, let's bring in Ben Frederickson. And Ben, thanks as always for hopping on the show. I'll start with this. What are your takeaways as you get a chance to reflect on the Cardinals season this past year?
Well, the regular season was fun and long and history-filled and remarkable, unforgettable. And then the postseason, Dan, was short and sour. It was everything the regular season wasn't. So it was almost kind of like two chapters. The Cardinals, did what they said they wanted to do, bring back Albert Pujols, send out Yadier Molina with a memorable regular season, but they fell very short of accomplishing their biggest goal, which was sending those guys out with the championship. So they've got to dig into why they keep getting knocked out of the postseason so quickly, and they need to reverse this trend of early postseason absences. Okay,
going back to Yadi and Albert, could the regular season have gone any better in the manner in which that all unfolded?
Pretty remarkable. The milestones, the records. Albert, we knew when he was named to the All-Star game, at least I did, he's going to turn it on here. I didn't think he was going to turn it on like that. I did think he could catch Alex Rodriguez. I wasn't convinced he could get to 700, and he surged past it. Pretty special. It was fun to be at the ballpark and see, generations meeting Albert as a player. Parents introducing their children to their favorite player. That was a special phenomenon to watch. And even in the postseason, it was disappointing how it ended. But what do we know, Dan? Albert Pujols coming up with a hit in his last at-bat, doing his part. Pretty special.
I'm going to give you some credit here. You were one of the first ones that thought the All-Star game would give him that boost. All right, with A-Rod, all within reach, and then 700. He's one of the great showmen, isn't he, that we've ever seen in the game of baseball?
Entertainer, always has an ability to rise to the moment. And you knew when he was named to that All-Star game, there was some conversation, hey, is this deserved? And yeah, he had an awesome career, but shouldn't this be for guys who had great seasons? And you just knew that Albert was going to go and be rejuvenated by seeing the best players in baseball remind him that he is their favorite player. I didn't think he would do what he did in the home run derby, knocking off Kyle Schwarber, but it kind of felt like that moment in LA where all of those players surrounded him and showered him with love, and almost kind of like they all gave him a little piece of their power. And then he became Albert Pujols again in the second half. And this lineup went from two MVP candidates in Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado to the closest thing that we've seen to an MV3 in a really long time. And Albert was a key bat, and he was their hottest hitter in the final month of the season. And, you saw that in how they structured the postseason lineup.
What do you think this final year for Albert does for both he and the Cardinals going forward in his retirement?
Well, I think Albert is going to be able to be around the Cardinals as much as he wants. And I know there's a lot of talk and coverage of his personal services contract with the Angels. There have been other players, managers who have had, business relationships with other teams and still been able to be around the Cardinals. And I think that will be up to him as much as he wants to be around. I think the Cardinals would love to have him. Bigger, Dan, I think it should do some great things for the Cardinals moving forward. I think if you're Jordan Walker, who could at some point in time be looking at weighing whether you should take a big extension from the Cardinals or go out and pursue free agency, I think you think a little bit about Albert Pujols' career. You probably realize what a special place this is to play, maybe a little bit more than you did. I think free agents should think St. Louis is a destination for baseball players, and it still is, and we've seen that. Goldschmidt, Arenado can attest to that. Well, now Albert Pujols can once again as well, so it should have dividends long down the road, and like we're talking about a 1-year, $2.5 million deal. I think the Cardinals feel pretty good about that investment they made in Albert Pujols.
So as you reflect on this season, what was your favorite moment in watching Albert Pujols?
I think it was 695 against the Cubs, and it has to be against the Cubs, right, at home. And, the pinch hit home run there that decides the game. And Albert talked about, and Ali Marmol disclosed this, and then Albert talked about it additionally, is Albert's getting ready for that at bat, getting his swings in, and he kind of hears the broadcast. I think it was Ricky Horton say, wouldn't it be great if Albert came up here and hit a home run? And Albert thinks, yeah, it would be pretty great. That would be kind of fun. And he goes and does it. And I think that just captures the magic that really surrounded him in that second half. And that was the one where, we saw him snarl at times this year, trotting the bases. We saw him look very focused when he was pressing for that 700. That was the one where he just kind of smiled, and he had that big grin, and it was like, yeah, this is fun. This is special. And we all know it. This couldn't have happened anywhere else.
All right, how about Yadi? What was your favorite Yadi moment?
Final game of the season. It wasn't the outcome the Cardinals wanted, but there comes Yadier Molina up to bat with the game still within reach. 2 outs. He goes down 2 strikes, Dan, and you go, man, it can't end like this. They might lose this game. The season might be over, but it cannot end on a Yadier Molina strikeout or a Yadier Molina ground out. Not for a guy who willed himself into being a better hitter than he probably ever should have been. Not for a guy who fiercely worked and worked to be a clutch hitter and came through so many times. And what does he do? He slaps a base hit. He passes the baton. It didn't get done, but that to me was Yadier Molina and the definition of, hey, I'm not going out like that, and I've still got some clutch left in me. And to see that happen on his last at-bat, I thought was very, very much Yadi.
Well, we both believe that Yadi is a Hall of Famer. We know that Albert is. So do you think that both those guys go into the Hall of Fame at the same time?
Man, I hope so. And I hope that people who don't want to see that for whatever reason, like they're tired of the Cardinals winning or for not thinking Yadier Molina should be a first ballot Hall of Famer, which I think he should be. I hope that the push against that doesn't become something that influences people's voting. They do belong there. They do belong there together. They should both be first ballot Hall of Famers. Pujols should be anonymous. I probably wouldn't expect Molina to be, but and we know he won't be, but they should go in together. People can't get caught up in thinking about, well, Buster Posey and Yadi, maybe need to space them out or one or the other. They're both Hall of Fame players, and that can be okay. That catchers are underrepresented in the Hall of Fame, Dan. They need more catchers in. These two guys both belong in, and they shouldn't have to wait.
Hey, Ben, great stuff. Hang tight. Coming up, we'll take a closer look at what the Cardinals may look like in 2023. This is Scoops with Danny Mac on Fox 2. Scoops with Danny Mac on Fox 2 is brought to you by Schnucks, Stratum Structural Systems, and Hair Saloon for Men. Welcome back to the show on Fox 2. Later in the show, a closer look at the Special Education Foundation and the impact that they are making in our community. Let's welcome back in Ben Frederickson of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Now, Ben, let's look ahead to next year. Where does this team need to improve upon?
Well, they've got a lot of opportunities to improve, and the good thing is they've got a flexible team, Dan, where they can kind of prioritize their players and move guys around. They've got a lot of guys who can play different spots in the outfield. They've got a lot of guys who can play different spots in the infield. So we know first base is set. We know third base is set. I'll actually start with catcher because you go years and years of never having to worry about who the starting catcher is on this team, and it's such a vital role for this organization. So much flows through that position. I don't think the Cardinals saw enough in Andrew Kisner this season to have him be the starter moving forward. He can help, and it's going to be more of a timeshare probably at the position in the modern era. Ivan Herrera's not quite ready. I would look at catcher. I would have a conversation with Wilson Contreras, a different kind of catcher, but a guy who sticks up for his team, who has a fierce way he plays the game, and he would add some offense, which this lineup could certainly need another bat. So I would start with catcher. You can also make a compelling case for a top-end starter who can get strikeouts. We're seeing the importance of that. We know how much Ollie wants that. Continue to be built into his pitching staff. Shortstop is going to be a discussion after the bet on Paul DeJong didn't work. I'm okay with Tommy Edman playing there, but here's the thing. Tommy Edman can play a lot of spots. And then, oh, by the way, Dan, that outfield is more unsettled now than it was entering this season. Harrison Bader is a Yankee. Tyler O'Neill had another season marred by injury. Lars Nootbaar made an impression. Juan Yepez did. Dylan Carlson did not take the opportunities and run with them. So it's wide open, and then that Jordan Walker young man is coming, Dan, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see him sooner rather than later in this Cardinals outfield. But long list, I started at catcher.
You mentioned Jordan Walker, and how intrigued are you with the idea that this young man could break camp with the Cardinals next season?
I think you got to give him the opportunity, make him earn it for sure, but send him to spring training with the challenge of, hey, go make this team. He's young, but they're young guys playing all over this league, and this guy's bat can do damage. You've got the DH spot available. We saw how the Cardinals used that with Nolan Gorman, where if the bat plays, I think you now have more leeway than ever before to say, hey, we can work on the defense as we go, but you can't turn down a bat that's major league ready, not with his power potential.
Okay, Tyler O'Neill. Where are you with Tyler O'Neill and the Cardinals moving forward?
Well, the Cardinals are in a tough spot because they feel like if they trade him, then he's going to go out and do great things for some other team, and they're going to look short-sighted. But at some point, you either do or you don't. And the Cardinals gave him a lot of opportunity and said, hey, go take the job you want, go prove it. He did it last year, and everybody clamored for an extension. The Cardinals looked smart for waiting and saying, let's see it one more year, and it didn't happen. So I think that, if there's a move to be made to add a player that they think can help, then you've got to consider at least putting him in that package.
Ollie Marmol, his first year, pretty darn good, 93 wins. What does he need to do going into year number 2?
Well, I think he should and could and needs to have a little bit more voice in maybe some of the additions that this team should consider. And I think, too, his first postseason in that seat, you can prepare for it, but you can't really know what it's like until you're in the big chair for the postseason. And I think we will see him improve when that time comes around. I thought during the regular season he did an outstanding job. I thought he got more guys involved. He did a good job of not running guys into the ground. He let the rookies come up and made them feel confident, and also was okay with challenging players. I think everyone appreciates his blunt honesty. I think the trademarks of this team, defense, speed, athleticism, those things held up under him. So I didn't see a lot of things he needs to improve on, and I think he'll be better prepared for the postseason the next time it comes.
We assume that Adam Wainwright is back next year. Are we going to see another going-away type tour that we saw with both Yadi and Albert this year?
Well, I think Wainwright is going to come back, and I can't imagine him pitching another year beyond this upcoming one. So I do think it will be a kind of Wainwright's chance in the spotlight if he wants that, and if he doesn't, then he can ride off into the sunset. But the way he talked about in those recent Twitter posts about how frustrated he was with how this ended and how he feels like he can fix what went wrong after he was hitting the knee by that pitch, it sure sounds to me like he's talking himself into a comeback, and I'm okay with that because the guy pitched nearly 200 innings. He gave this team a chance to win pretty much every time out until September came. And, you still are going to need depth in the rotation. Bringing Adam Wainwright back on another manageable deal that works for both sides, it creates depth. You can never have enough pitching. It shouldn't stop the Cardinals from also finding other ways to improve their rotation as well.
I don't know about you, but I'm really looking forward to a normal spring training. We had COVID for a couple of years, a lockout this past spring, so I'm really looking forward to a normal offseason and spring training.
Well, I'm thankful that Albert Pujols and Aaron Judge did everything they could to flush out those bad memories of that lockout, and it doesn't feel like it was just a year ago where we were sitting around wondering if we were going to have a baseball season. What a season it became. So I'm glad that the players and owners got on board and stopped shooting themselves in the foot. Baseball's a great sport. It's fun. We were reminded of that this season. Continue to lean into that and don't let this get so nasty the next time around. Fortunately, this contract, the CBA runs for a while now, so we get to avoid it, and we can focus on yelling about rule changes or the expanded postseason or whatever else, and not have to talk about who makes what.
Ben, as always, thank you.
You bet, Dan. Anytime.
Up next, it's a look at a wonderful organization in St. Louis doing great works for kids and families in our community. That's next on Scoops with Danny Mac on Fox 2. Scoops with Danny Mac on Fox 2 is brought to you by Lordo's Diamonds, STLTaxLawyer.com, Triad Bank, and Lou Fuse. Welcome back to Scoops with Danny Mac on Fox 2. Something I'm very proud of here in St. Louis, I've been able to do this for 20 years, is the Dan McLaughlin Charity Golf Tournament to benefit the Special Education Foundation. So in baseball, we had great milestones this last year with the Cardinals, Albert Pujols, Yadier Molina, and we've also had now 20 years of this golf tournament. A couple of weeks ago, we were able to raise a ton of money, thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars to benefit kids in our community. The goal is to help so many kids and families in need. The motto is when the tax dollars stop, we step in. And in 20 years, we've raised nearly $5 million for kids with disabilities. This past tournament raised nearly $500,000. It begins with the bagpipers sending out the golfers onto the golf course at Norwood Hills Country Club. It ends with a huge auction, and I'm so grateful to so many professional athletes, those in the past, the present, that donate signed auction items, game-worn jerseys, bats, balls, cleats even. It's amazing how much is given back to this special event for the Special Education Foundation. And here's a closer look at what it's all about. How blessed are we all? For 20 years, we have gathered at Norwood Hills to celebrate the best we all have to offer. The best in all of us, which is helping children, kids and families that need our help. The responsibility we have in our lives is to make this a better place than when we all got here. We do that through this event, and we've done that for 20 years. You all have done that by just being here. You're helping the kids of the Special Education Foundation. These children just need a chance. They encompass the human spirit. These kids define what it means to fight to be the best in our lives, to fight for what we all take for granted, the simple things, to hear, to walk, to learn, to understand, most importantly, to have dignity.
They are eager to learn. They love coming to school. They want to play with their peers. And, when frustrations arise, we as their teachers can be there to direct them in a way to help, give that piece that they're missing. So that piece of being able to pull aside those things that they don't yet have and teach them specifically so that when they are around their peers, to be able to see them succeed in those larger groups is just the whole goal. Everything comes together. We want them to be successful. And they just are just so fun and loving. And
their innocence is best exemplified in their smiles. Children who smile because they want to. They're happy. They're happy with life, happy to live life to the fullest. However, the children of SEF strive for what most of us take for granted, to what few of us could attain. So ask yourself, how blessed are we all?
These students come to us, they learn to communicate, and they come to us in this small setting, and they go on to be successful in their own home schools. That is our goal.
This tournament has raised nearly $5 million to help children, 100% going to them. We step in when the tax dollars stop. Your donation goes to hearing aids, up-to-date specialization classrooms, teaching aids, scholarships, wheelchairs, just to name a very small portion of what the families and children need in your assistance. This tournament began with Caroline Kiowski, a then little girl, and now a beautiful young lady. She is why we're here tonight. She's the inspiration of this tournament. A heart that doesn't know color, creed, or any bias. Innocence, the heart of an angel. And that's what she is. 20 years ago, the services she needed were extensive, and that's where the Special Education Foundation stepped in, and for hundreds of thousands of children in our area. When the tax dollars stop, we step in. There are families that do not qualify for any assistance, and they need our help. By supporting this event, you are changing lives, literally. The Special School District serves nearly 25,000 students in 265 schools. The average cost of raising the typical child through age 18 is $240,000. However, for a kid with special needs, that figure, on average, is over $1 million. This tournament has provided services for over 175,000 children with special needs in our community. These are the children of the Special Education Foundation. They're the best in all of us. They are innocent children. These are the kids that you're helping through your generosity. They need our assistance. They never ask for a thing. They just want their dignity. Tonight, ask yourself this: how blessed are we all? This is the Special Education Foundation. If you would like to donate to this wonderful organization, please go to SEF.org, Special Education Foundation. For Ben Frederickson, I'm Dan McLaughlin. Thanks for watching Scoops with Danny Mac on Fox 2.